Hey guys, today we are talking about the February market review for Halifax's real estate market. I have the stats here, so a few things just to highlight. The average home price from January 2026 to February 2026 increased by 25,000. We are now at $608,750, up from $583,858 from January. Months of inventory is the same. So months of inventory is a statistic that we use to navigate different types of real estate markets. So for instance, we define real estate markets. There's three: sellers, balanced, buyers markets, depending on what market you're in, typically on your market experience. We define seller's market as 0 to 4 months of inventory, anything in there. Balance is 4 to 6 months of inventory, anything in there. And buyer's market, 6+ months of inventory. So right now, Halifax is still at 2.1 months of inventory, which is still a very healthy seller's market. Homes for sale. We didn't see any change in homes for sale. 55 homes for sale in February 2026, which is down from 866 homes for sale in January. So not much change there. Pending sales. 265 pending sales in January, and we are at 264 pending sales in February. So once again, not much change there. New listings is interesting. We are at 392 new listings in Halifax for February 2026, which is actually down from 418 new listings from January 2026. Days on market is up. We are now at 50 days on market, which is up from 44 days on market in January. Sale price. So listed sale price is essentially if you ask the listing price of $100, percentage of how much is that? In February 2026, we were at 99% listed sale price, meaning that if you listed your house for $100, you sold at $99. And that's up from 98% in January 2026. Few things to just note here, and I can also give a bit of insight from what we're seeing in the market. Home price going up by 25 grand. I think that's just typical this time of year. I am on record of saying the best time to sell your house is actually February and March every year. That is the best time statistically to sell your house in Halifax. The reason being is it takes the average transaction 30 to 60 days to close, and the highest sale price every year is always April and May. So statistically speaking, those deals that close in April and May are actually done in February and March. So you should be selling your house in February and March for higher sale prices if you're looking for the most dollar value return on your home. In that regard, to see that come up 25 grand, yeah, we are moving into the busier spring market. Buyers are more engaged in the market. There's still not a lot of houses for sale right now, comparatively speaking. So buyers have less to choose from. Then you may see 1 or 2 offers on properties. We were in multiple offers last week with a few clients, as well as also seeing homes just accepted offers within 1 or 2 days of being on the market. So that is actually kind of on track. The homes for sale and new listings is really fascinating for me. So the way real estate typically works in Halifax in general, if you watch the statistics and you watch the market, the average year, if you start in January of every year, right? It's a new year. People have their home ownership goals, whether that's buying, selling, or investing, and they start transacting. They start mapping out how their year is going to be. If they're selling, they're probably making conversations with their realtors, putting together plans in place to get ready for, March, April, May in that window. If you are buying, it's typically speaking, you're getting in touch with your realtor, you're getting together with a pre-approval, figuring out what your budget is and where you want to live, and then you're going to start seeing houses. So typically speaking, buyers are pretty active and engaged in the market by late January, early February, if they're planning on transacting in the year. What tends to happen is you start seeing a ramp up into the spring market. The spring market is the busiest real estate market in Halifax. It's every year we are a seasonal market. So in that regard, you see January, you get a certain amount of listings. February, you get a little more. March, you get a lot more. And in April, you get hit with a ton of listings. A ton of inventory typically hits the market. And that's when you see months of inventory go up. You see active listings go up. You see all these things happen. To see new listings and homes for sale, to see new listings go down is really interesting. That hasn't happened in 7 years. I checked the stats in Halifax. And to see homes for sale stay the same. There's a few things you can decipher from that. One, I would guess the weather. We've had a really hard winter this year in Halifax, and winter definitely plays a part in selling your house. In the most If you want to keep it the most basic sense, it is harder to see a house in a snowstorm. It is more upkeep for sellers to shovel driveways, salt walkways, shovel decks, to try and keep the house presentable for potential buyers. So in that regard, like yes, it is harder to sell your home in the winter. Also, like, you could have list your house on a Wednesday, and you might have a lot of viewings scheduled for the weekend, and then you get hit with 25 centimeters of snow on the Saturday, so all the viewings get canceled, which just means more days on market. More days on market hurts your sale price. So a lot of sellers typically tend to avoid the winter months. But that being said, most people start ramping up into the spring market. So you usually see new listings tends to uptick throughout the year into spring. So to see it go backwards is really interesting. Just you're kind of curious as to what kind of role the weather's played on people pushing back the listings. I know for a fact that I've had a few be pushed back. I've had a few sellers just say, "Listen, we're not going to start working. We're not going to start doing this work until March. We'll get it listed mid to late April, early May." Super simple. Um, Pending sales. Still the same at 265 and 264. So I guess that might be an indication that the market hasn't really kicked off yet. Um, Hard to tell just because of that number. That just means transactions have stayed where they're at. So buyers are still buying the same amount of homes. Days on market going up by 6 days. So it increased from 44 days to 50 days. God. Days on market is an interesting stat because it is the true indicator of the market. If you are in a slower market, days on market goes up. You could also make the argument of, well, pending sales are the same, so there's not any more buyers engaged in the market, and inventory hasn't changed much. So those homes that were sitting have sat for a little longer, which then increases your days on market. That's probably all that is. Once again, weather played a really big impact in the winter months in terms of days on market. So I'm going to attribute the new listings being down and the days on market being up to weather. We'll see in March and April and May what the stats are, but right now, um, I guess if we're gonna get into it, my overall feeling of the market just being an engaged realtor and my wife being an engaged realtor in the market. We are seeing good homes go quick. So if you see a good move-in ready home that's well priced, you are seeing viewings and they are getting offers, whether or not in a day or 2 days they're gone. You're not seeing quite so much of the bullshit of we're listing today, we're gonna hold offers until a week from now, and we're going to get you all in competition. You're not seeing that right now, which is a blessing, but you are seeing if a good house comes to market, we have to run because they sell quickly. And what I mean by that is if something comes to market today that checks a lot of your clients' boxes, and typically speaking, if you're working with buyers, they all kind of want the same thing. It's rare that they deviate in their price points. What I mean by that is if you get a home that checks your client's boxes and like there's not a lot of work to be done, it's in a good location and it's well priced. 9 times out of 10, it's going to check a lot of other buyers' options. And once again, we haven't had a lot of inventory, so there's few pickings for buyers to shop around for different houses. So when you have limited houses and buyers are active and engaged in the market, then you're going to get into one or two or maybe three competing offers. And we are seeing that. I think that's been a trend of the last few years, though, where you see January, February, March just kind of slowly uptick, slowly uptick, slowly uptick, but you still have buyers that are actively engaged in the market, and then you get into multiple offers, which drive up prices, and people then make the mistake of thinking, "Oh, it's a really hot market," or "We're still in a really hot seller's market." Well, no, the last few years have been the trend of buyers engaged in the market. Sellers are taking a little longer to get to market. You're seeing that inventory really hit in end of March, early April, May. That 3-month period, you start to see a lot of listings, which then gives buyers options, which then stops the multiple offers. So be careful if you are involved and or engaged in this market and you find yourself getting into competing offers or the buyers taking up the best houses that come to market. At this time of recording, it is March 17th. We are in March break. And you're typically not gonna see inventory happening until after March break because no one wants to list their house while their kids are home. No one wants to do photography and cleaning and clean and all these prep that you have to do to get your house ready for market while the kids are home. So if you're gonna take that into consideration, it's just one thing to keep in mind while you are active in the market as a buyer. Do not get discouraged if you lose in competition. The competition will not is not here to stay. It's not. It hasn't been the last few years, but we have seen competition in this early spring market because there isn't enough inventory. Be patient. The inventory will come. You will see options. You will get a house at a good deal in a good location for a good price. Do not be discouraged. It's just early signs of the market. This has been happening in the last few years. I wouldn't take that into consideration. If you are selling your house, my advice would be, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think you've missed the window. If you haven't had your house on the market yet for getting the top sale price or a really quick and easy transaction, I think that I'm going to rephrase. You can still get a quick, easy transaction in April, but you're just gonna have to do more competition because I think you're gonna have a flood of homes hit the market in April, May, as has been the last 2 years. And with the amount of snow that we have had over the last few years, has really, I mean, for the last few months, has really pushed listings back into April, May when it's sunnier, better weather. So if you are in that market, if you're planning on listing in April, May of this year, just make sure you're going to the market in your best possible condition. So, paint the walls, paint the baseboard, paint the trim, clean, declutter, get a staging consultant, or actually stage the home itself, like physically bring in furniture from a specialist. Do your pre-inspections, just goes up ahead, be transparent, be as easy to work with the buyer as you possibly can be, and ultimately price your home well. And you guys shouldn't have any problems. If you don't do those things, you might run into some problems just because buyers have options. And if more and more houses hit the market, which they should in the spring market, you're just giving buyers more options to choose from, and that does ultimately hurt sellers' negotiation leverage ability. So all in all, interesting time. I'm gonna chalk this up to a bit of an anomaly for now, just based on the market of really bad weather, pushing listings back, days on market going up because of really bad weather, price increase because there's not enough listings and buyers are finding themselves competing against one other person for the really good houses, which then pushes the price. Keep an eye on it, and I'll let you guys know how it goes in March. All right. Any questions? Comment below or DM me, and I would love to get back to you. Have a good day. Bye.